My name's Lorraine Groves. I was the victim of an armed robbery in my home in Sioux City, Iowa. There was a knock at the door, so I opened the door expecting one person to be standing in my doorway, and there were two, and they immediately pushed me backwards. The one presented a knife. I immediately backed away from the knife, said they wanted cash. They wanted me to take them to my financial where I worked. I said, there's an alarm. They said, you know how to do the alarm. And I said, you'll get caught. They said, get on the floor on your stomach. Put my arms behind my back with duct tape. They tied duct tape around my ankles, pushed me onto the floor. They poured bleach down my back. I still shake thinking about it today. You never forget. Someone standing there with a knife pointed at you and tying you up and throwing you down on the floor like you're a rug. Mr. Loomis was assigned my case as prosecutor of the case. Mr. Loomis was my strength. He was great in handling me as a victim in an armed robbery. I don't think it gets any better than that. I knew that he was there for me to get both of these men put in prison. I just think he's got a lot of support, especially with the Sioux City Police Department. I know he has a lot of support, and that's important to get cases solved and prosecuted. I know from talking to the police officers on my case that they all believed in him for getting cases done. I've been even told that by Sioux City police officers. I just appreciated his help very much, very much. I was employed at a financial institution in Sioux City for many years, was the manager, and knew how to open the credit union or the vault. They researched to find out who was the manager of the financial. I was still listed in the phone book for the landline, and that's how they found me. There was a knock at the door, and I went to the door and said, who is it? And there was a voice, said a name, and I said, I don't know this name, and this voice said, yes, you do. So I opened the door expecting one person to be standing in my doorway, and there were two. They asked if I was Lorraine Groves. I said yes. They said, you manage where I worked? I said yes. They immediately pushed me backwards. The one on the right presented a knife. He had a Band-Aid across his nose, which I understand from the police department that was a trick to get me to notice the Band-Aid more than to notice his facial features. The man that didn't have the Band-Aid, I remembered his eyes distinctively. They wanted me to take them to where I worked, kept my eyes on the knife, and told them if there was an alarm. And they said, well, you know how to do the alarm. And I said, that'll just set off another alarm. There's nobody opening a vault or at this time of night. It'll just set off another alarm. And as soon as I said that, they immediately said, then where's your safe? And I said, I don't have a safe. And one of them stayed with me, and one of them went into my home and started going through my closets and my drawers. He came back out. They said, get on the floor on your stomach. And I said, no. Whatever you're gonna do to me, do it right here, because he had that knife, and if I was gonna have to fight for my life, I was gonna fight. They put my arms behind my back with duct tape. They tied duct tape around my ankles, and then one of them pushed me onto the floor and tied the leg of the chair around the tape. They poured bleach down my back, which I was later told was to try to hide fingerprints. I laid on the floor with my back to them and the door, and then I heard the door again, and I just laid till I didn't hear anything. Well, the bleach that they had poured actually helped me, because it loosened the tape around my wrist, and I was able to get one hand free. And I immediately got up and called 911, and the police came. They saw a Band-Aid laying on the floor in my living room, and they said, is that your Band-Aid? And I said, no, that belonged to the man with the knife. And then in March of 16, I received a notice that one of my robbers had shot or tried to shoot somebody in the Omaha area, and they had gotten DNA off of the Band-Aid that was on my carpet, and that DNA matched the man that had just tried to shoot somebody in Omaha. Mr. Loomis was assigned my case as prosecutor of the case. I was informed continuously as to how it would work, what would take place when I got into the courtroom, which I'd never been involved with before, so it makes you kind of nervous. What would be asked, what the judge would say, what steps would be taken, so that I knew what to expect. I just appreciated his help very much, very much. Then I was brought in again to do a lineup. They were going to show me a bunch of pictures again, and as I went through the pictures, I remembered the eyes of the second man, and I circled the pictures and initialed it, and he would not admit that he was guilty and wanted a trial. So Mr. Loomis let me know the steps that we would have to take for that. It did go to jury trial. Mr. Loomis was my backbone in the courtroom. He knew what was going to be coming towards me. He knew what I was going to be asked. He knew how to address the questions in the courtroom. Mr. Loomis was my strength. Mr. Loomis would be a great person to be in the position of county attorney. I know from talking to the police officers on my case that they all believed in him for getting cases done. I've been even told that by Sioux City police officers. He was great in handling me as a victim in an armed robbery. I don't think it gets any better than that, and I just think he's got a lot of support, especially with the Sioux City Police Department. I know he has a lot of support, and that's important to get cases solved and prosecuted. I knew that he was there for me to get both of these men put in prison, and the jury came back guilty and they were put in prison, both of them. I still shake thinking about it today. You never forget. You never forget. Someone standing there with a knife pointed at you and tying you up and throwing you down on the floor like you're a rug. Not knowing where they are behind you when they've got a knife and you can't see where they are. You never forget. I was very satisfied that both of these men were found guilty and sent to prison. I don't think I would have ever rested easy if that had not been the case, because I would wonder if they're still going to try to come after me in some future place or time. With them both being found guilty and in prison for many years, I could then relax.